I read the Mahabharata, so you don't have to. Namaste. This is Stories of India Retold, and today we're talking all about Drona and his favorite student Arjuna. How much is too much for a good education? In India, a battle is playing out between parents and private schools. Parents are pushing back against relentless tuition hikes, accusing schools of turning education into a luxury commodity. And they're not wrong, because when it comes to getting a leg up into the best colleges, best careers, the best lives, education is the currency. And in this race, the wealthier you are, the more you can spend on tutors, test prep, study abroad programs, even donations that quietly open doors. And this is not a problem that is specific to India. In 2019, headlines exploded with a scandal that shook the education system in the US. Wealthy parents, including Hollywood stars, were caught cheating, lying, and paying hundreds of thousands to millions to secure spots for their kids at elite colleges. Fake test scores, phony sports resumes, all of that stuff. This obsession with being the best, getting the best training, and never falling behind. This culture where parents and students are willing to do almost anything for academic success or a shot at the top seems to be universal. And the hunger to be the best isn't a modern day invention. Even thousands of years ago, in kingdoms ruled by mighty warriors and wise sages, people were out there hustling, doing everything they could to get ahead. For a kshatriya or warrior, especially from the royal family, a top tier education wasn't optional. You needed to master a variety of subjects, including war strategy and, of course, every weapon under the sun. So, naturally, when it came to training the princes of the mighty Kuru dynasty, the Pandavas and Kauravas, Bhishma, the Grand Patriarch, wasn't going to settle for some average tutor with a sword and a story. No. Bhishma wanted someone extraordinary, someone who could command the respect of the entire royal family, someone so accomplished, so fearsome, so sharp that even the most rebellious prince would sit up straight and listen. And that someone was Drona. Now, Drona wasn't just any warrior. He was ridiculously skilled, deeply ambitious, and held a very specific personal mission. And at the heart of that mission, revenge. Let's rewind a bit. Drona was the son of the sage Bharadwaja, who was an expert in Dhanurveda or the art of weapons. He ran a school, thanks to which Drona grew up surrounded by knowledge, weaponry, and sons of kings. In fact, Prashata, the king of Panchala, was great friends with Bharadwaja and would visit him often. That's where Drona met Drupada, the prince of Panchala. The two boys became inseparable. They were playmates, best friends even. Drona believed their bond would last forever. But years passed, life happened, and they lost touch. Fast forward to adulthood, Drupada was now King Drupada. Drona decided to renew his friendship and went to see him. He was excited to pay his old friend a visit. He told Drupada all about his life. He told him how he had become a master in the use of weapons, like the powerful fire weapon called Agneya. He had managed to convince Parashurama to train him in the use of a variety of specialized weapons. He built up a nice profile for himself and he had earned quite a bit of wealth. He was proud of what he had achieved and it felt good sharing it all with an old friend. But Drupada, cold as ice. He basically said, yeah, we were friends as kids, but you're a nobody now. Get new friends. Ouch. Drona was devastated and furious. That humiliation burned into him, and he swore he'd have his revenge. But let's be real. He was a weapon master, not a king who had an entire army and treasury at his disposal. How was he going to compete with that? Easy. Train the future kings. Enter the Kuru princes. See, Drona had married Kripi, whose family had deep ties with the Kuru dynasty. Her father Sharadvat was a respected weapons teacher. Kripi and her twin brother Kripa were raised under the protection of the Kuru king Shantanu, who was the Pandava and Kauravas' great-grandfather. So the marriage opened doors for Drona, and right at that moment, the Kurus were on the lookout for a teacher for the young Kaurava and Pandava princes. Perfect timing. To Drona's credit, he was upfront with Bhishma from the start. He revealed to Bhishma his plans for revenge against Drupada. He said, "I'll train your princes, I will make them into formidable warriors, but in return, I want their loyalty. One day I'll ask something of them." Bhishma agreed. Drona got the job. Drona also told his students that at the end of their training period, he would have a task for them. "Can I count on you for support?" he asked them. No one volunteered except for his most dedicated student, Arjuna. And so began one of the most fascinating student-teacher relationships in all of Indian mythology, Drona and Arjuna. Now, Arjuna. He wasn't just another student. He was the student. Talented, driven, obsessed with being the best archer alive. He trained day and night, literally. His focus was legendary. There's a story of him practicing all day, every day, even in the dark. And when Drona saw this, he knew he had something special here. Drona recognized Arjuna's potential, so much so that he made Arjuna a promise. "I'll make you the best archer in the world," he promised. Under Drona's tutelage, Arjuna became an extremely skilled warrior. This helped Drona build his reputation, quickly making him one of the most sought-after teachers. Princes and kings from far and wide came to him for training. Drona continued to gain incredible influence and power. This was largely thanks to what he had achieved with Arjuna. And just as Drona had promised, Arjuna was the best warrior he had ever trained, or so they believed. Because one day, while the Pandavas were out hunting in the forest, they found their dog with its mouth full of arrows. But the dog was still alive. So the princes were curious. They followed the trail and discovered a young man named Ekalavya. The Pandavas learned that Ekalavya was training in the forest when their dog ran up to him and started to bark at him. Ekalavya swiftly shot 7 arrows into the poor dog's mouth. The Pandavas looked at him in amazement. Ekalavya was incredibly skilled, probably even better than Arjuna. Yikes. When asked who his teacher was, Ekalavya simply said, "Drona." Arjuna was furious. He thought, wait, my teacher trained him? Arjuna went to Drona and asked him how it was possible that he had trained someone like Ekalavya. But Drona was confused too. He went to Ekalavya and asked for an explanation. Ekalavya said that some time back he had approached Drona for training, but was turned away because he was from the Nishada tribe, which is a community of hunters and fishermen, and they mainly lived in the mountains. They were considered outside the traditional warrior elite, so Drona chose not to train him. But Ekalavya didn't give up. Like Arjuna, he was incredibly ambitious and wanted to train under Drona, who was considered the best. So, he built a statue of Drona from clay and treated it as his guru. He trained day and night in front of it. And the results? Spectacular. Drona was truly impressed, but he had made a promise. Arjuna had to be the best. So he asked Ekalavya for Guru Dakshina, which is a teacher's fee. And what did he ask for? Ekalavya's right thumb. Ekalavya had no choice but to pay it. Without hesitation and with a smile on his face, Ekalavya sliced his right thumb off and gave it to Drona. Without the right thumb, Ekalavya lost his edge as an archer. He would no longer be a threat to Arjuna. Arjuna was satisfied. But Ekalavya wasn't the only threat to Arjuna's title as the best of his time. There was also Karna. Raised by a charioteer's family but burning with the skill and pride of a true warrior, Karna was just as talented, some say more, and he trained under Drona too. But because of Karna's social status and the promise Drona had made to Arjuna, Drona made sure Karna could never directly challenge Arjuna. That denial fueled Karna's lifelong resentment and Duryodhana's cunning schemes. But that's a story for another episode. For now, what we need to know is this. The story of Drona and Arjuna isn't just about teacher and student. It's about ambition, obsession, loyalty, betrayal, and the strange, complicated deals we make in the pursuit of greatness. And at the center of it all, a teacher with a grudge, a student with a dream, and a whole lot of arrows flying through the air. Oh, and also, wondering what happened to Drona's revenge? Well, he got it. He led an army of his students, which included Arjuna, against Drupada and handed him a resounding defeat. Drona not only took Drupada's pride, he also took part of the Panchala kingdom from him. Drona ruled the northern part of Panchala and set base in Ahichatra, and Drupada was left with the southern part of Panchala. In a relentless cycle of vengeance, Drupada pledged to annihilate Drona, a vow that ultimately resulted in the birth of Draupadi, the future wife of the Pandavas. In an intriguing event of fate, Drona and his cherished student Arjuna would eventually confront each other on the battlefield. More fascinating stories for another day. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of these stories on Stories of India Retold. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Dhanyavada.